One thing that's really cool about polynomials is that we can actually tell a lot about the graph just by looking at the leading term, the very first term. Okay, now there are two things we're going to need to notice about the leading term. If the degree is even or odd, so if the exponent is an even number or an odd, okay, and then is the coefficient, is the number out in front of it, positive or negative. Okay, so even degree, you know, these would be things that the very first term is like x squared, x to the fourth, x cubed, or x to the sixth, right? Odd degrees would be things like x cubed, x to the fifth, x, anything, you know, we could have 39th, anything with an odd degree. Okay, so a positive coefficient just means the first value, the first number out in front of our leading term is going to be positive, and a negative means negative. Now, what this leading term test tells us is what happens as we kind of go off either to the right or the left of the graph. What's happening as our x values go to positive or negative infinity. Okay, now let's think about, so one example of an even degree polynomial with a positive coefficient would be f of x equals x squared. Okay, that's just an example. This would be true though for anything where the leading term has an even degree and a positive number. Well then on either side we're going to be going up, right? X squared is just a parabola, it goes up on either side. But this would be the little kind of chart we draw to say if we have an even degree and a positive coefficient, we're going up. Well, what if we had a negative coefficient? Something like negative x squared. Well, then it goes down on each side. Okay, the y values would be going down. So one thing to notice here, if it's an even degree, it's doing the same thing on both sides. Now, for odd degree, for example, x cubed, x to the fifth, x to the 39th, whatever, if it has a positive coefficient, it's going to be going down as you go off to the left and up as you go off to the right. And it's kind of flipped for negative coefficient. It's going up to the left and down to the right. Now, we kind of leave these gaps because this doesn't tell us what's going on exactly in between. There could be kind of humps and relative minimums and maximums. This just tells us what's going on, kind of the bigger picture off to each side. So here we could say opposite on either side. Okay, so we're going to look at some polynomials and just make their little diagram. So this first one we have p of x equals pi x cubed minus x squared plus x. Now the only thing we need to look at is this first term. Now it's odd and the coefficient is pi. Well, pi is a positive number. So it's odd and positive. So we would look up at our chart and we would know that overall it would be going down to the left and up to the right. Okay, for b here we have p of x equals negative 3x to the fourth plus 4x cubed. Again, the only thing we care about is this first term. The degree here, the exponent is even, okay, and the coefficient is negative. So even tells us it's doing the same thing on either side. Negative tells us it's going down. So we know the chart would look like that. And then finally our last, oh, no, we have a couple more. So p of x here, we have negative 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 7x. So if we look at this first term, it has an odd degree and it's negative coefficient. So that means it's going up to the left and down to the right. Okay, one more here. We have p of x is 7x squared plus 5x minus 3. Well, this has an even degree and a positive coefficient. So even tells us it's doing the same thing. Positive tells us it's going up on both sides.